Oh, it's Friday, Greg.
It's the After Show Sports Podcast with Gregg and Travis. Best part of the day, no Michelle.
I know, and I'm glowing over here. Look at the beautiful sun behind me.
You know, you'd just be happy there's sun, brother.
I know.
After that Red Wing game last night, the sun. I didn't think the sun would come up after you losing to. I was so bummed. We'll talk about the game in a minute, though. Let's talk about what's important from last night. People losing their shit over the Red Wing jersey sponsor. Priority, is it waste?
Yeah, it's a trash company.
Listen,
really quick too. This is so on brand for Chris Ilitch. I mean, out of all things you can find to sponsor the team, it's a trash company too. Waste Management.
What? Why couldn't you sell it to Meyer? Why couldn't you sell it to United Wholesale Mortgage and put priority on the helmet at
Quicken
least?
Loans.
And it just, you could take the priorities money, just put it on the helmet.
Right.
Don't desecrate the jersey with a garbage company. Now, I don't really care, to be honest with you. It doesn't make any bit of difference to me what's on the sweater.
I'm with you too. I'm not one of those fans that, went into the comments of the video, because the Red Wings, I mean, they teed this up with a big presentation on social media, them stitching it on the jersey, Jeff Petrie wearing it, and even a guy in a trash truck with a Red Wings bobblehead bouncing up and down. Well, you guys are so cheesy.
And I have no problem, with trash and trash collectors. I call them sanitation engineers. None of that makes a difference. The problem is it opens you up to jokes. That's all. That's all it is, and it pisses people off. This has been coming a long time. The NBA is doing it. You knew the NHL would do it. Is baseball doing it too?
I think so.
And I think the NFL will soon do it. They're just waiting for the right money.
It's all about sponsorships and money.
Well, is it Nike a sponsor? I mean, they all have Nike swooshes on them. I don't know who the Red Wing team.
I think it's Adidas that does the hockey right now. Yeah, they've taken over hockey, because before it was Reebok for a long time.
The overreaction by people, though, is insane. Who cares? Watch the hockey. But I'll tell you what, two things. Number one, you couldn't have done it till this year when they were good. Don't think it wasn't planned out in the middle of a nice winning streak to get you 10 points up into a playoff spot. And number two, it happened as soon as the check cleared. Mike Ilitch is a whore. Or not Mike, Chris. Chris Ilitch is a whore. He's not his dad.
Right.
This guy is tight, and he's all about his money. It'll never be enough billions for Chris Ilitch.
No. And ironically enough, I mean, they ended up losing the hockey game last night. So that just feeds into the anger that people had leading into the game, because hockey, specifically hockey players, I understand a lot of sports athletes that they're superstitious people. They get up on the same side of the bed. They put on the right sock before the left. But hockey players, I mean, they grow the beards during the playoffs, and everybody was up in arms because why are you trying to mess with a good thing right now? The Red Wings are on a 6-game winning streak. Everything's good. Why are we going to make a change to an iconic jersey?
Is it a change, though?
No, listen, I'm with you on that front.
Oh, you're saying just for the momentum. Wait till they lose one, then do it on?
Yeah, the superstitious part of everything. That's why people were up in arms after the game, too. It's like, well, you put the logo on and look what happens. Our 6-game losing streak goes down the tubes.
They wanted it on during a good period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Red Wings have had a good last, 6 games?
They've had a good couple of months.
Since the All-Star break, particularly, they came back red hot.
They showed a statistic last night during the game. Since January 1st, they're 18-4-2.
Wow.
They had the second best record in the NHL since January 1st.
When did Kane sign?
Kane signed in October. He played for about a month, got hurt, came back, and he's been one of the biggest reasons why the Red Wings are where they are right now.
He's been great. But the game yesterday, it was frustrating, but I want to chalk that one up to they didn't get any puck luck against the Islanders. It was one bad bounce after the other. They had a couple of screw-ups in the defensive zone, which, obviously the Red Wings all my life, with very few exceptions, have had problems on defense. All my life. I mean, when Vladdy got hurt, that was a problem, but he'd solidified it for a long time. They had Nick and Vladdy back there. but they always were looking for defensemen. I mean, they went through the Uwe Krupps of the world, trying to get defensemen who could help.
This team, they have a liability on defense.
Right.
They have younger players that are developing in Grand Rapids right now that aren't playing in Detroit yet. But I think if you continue to see what happened last night against the Islanders, it's only a matter of time before Simon Edvinsson jumps up.
The Red Wings said today, quote unquote, he's close, which means give him another week, another 2 weeks, and he'll be up.
He's coming.
Crunch time. I don't know that he can help yet because he's still young, but I don't think it's out of the question that they look to make a move at the deadline this year. No longer selling.
They have to. Last night they lost 5-3. Their 6-game winning streak is done. And the Islanders inch a little bit closer to them. They're still a little ways away on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. The Red Wings have the number 1 wild card spot. I think no matter what happens, they're going to end up in the playoffs in some way, shape, or form.
Unless there's total collapse.
Total collapse. But I don't see it happening with this team right now. Last night, like you mentioned, everything went the Islanders' way. And it was bound to happen eventually. Look, you can't beat the hell out of every team you play.
No.
And the Red Wings looked like a team that maybe enjoyed beating the hell out of the Capitals a little too much on Tuesday. They came in, they looked like they had sea legs.
I didn't think they looked bad though. I thought they had some jump to them. What I thought, I just thought it was a couple critical plays that they blew. They gave up a power play goal, which has been rare.
Yeah.
The power play looks good and the penalty kill looks good. I mean, I feel like the power play is just crisp right now. They didn't get a goal last night on it, but man, they
move
close.
The puck around.
They really do. And when I first noticed it was against the Caps when there was a delayed call and they regrouped, took the puck, killed a minute with a 6-on-5 with just crisp power play.
Right.
It was just great. And then they scored, I think, on the actual power play.
Well, the biggest difference this year with power play, they went from bottom third in the league to top 10 because they added Patrick Kane, who is a wizard with the puck. And then you add Shane Gostisbehere, the defenseman, who a lot of people in the offseason
come from.
He played with the Arizona Coyotes for a long time. He also played with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Okay, he was good last night.
He's a great offensive defenseman. Yeah. He's a liability on defense, but he's great at quarterbacking a power play.
Yeah.
So that's why it's been good. But you mentioned it. Those two things on top of a good goaltender right now. I know Lyon gave up 4 goals last night, but he's been sharp. If you have
hung out to dry on 2 of them.
Yes. Which they need to clean that up.
Right.
But if you have a good power play, a good penalty kill, and a sharp goalie, you can beat somebody in the postseason.
They could beat 2 somebodies, I think.
Yeah. I mean it's not out of the question, but I'm with you. They need to make a move on March 8th.
Or 2.
A week away from the trade deadline.
Why not? Add a part now. I mean, for years, you've been selling off, giving everyone your best players. Go get one of somebody else's now.
Well, and there's a guy in Grand Rapids right now, Jonathan Berggren, who I guess the rumor is he's a little disgruntled right now because he's kind of a tweener. He played a lot in Detroit last year on their 3rd and 4th lines. This year, he just didn't cut it with the big club because Yzerman added a lot of good veteran players to the team this year. And he wants to be in the NHL. He wants a crack at playing in the NHL. How
old is he?
He's in his mid-20s.
Okay, so he's getting close to I need to play now.
Yeah, but he's not good enough to play on a really good team.
Right.
So I don't know why they don't take him, package him with like a 3rd or a 4th round pick and go out and get a defenseman from somebody.
I was looking at The Athletic and they were doing predictions for every team. They say the Red Wings are definitely a buyer at this year's deadline. And they talk about the kid from Ottawa. Wait, wasn't he a former Red Wing? Jacob Crutchen? Is that how it's pronounced?
I don't think he was a Red Wing. I know who you're talking about, but I don't think he was a Red Wing.
Didn't they trade him to Arizona? Hold on, I'll find out because that's the type of guy that can help you.
There's a couple different guys like the defenseman from the Calgary Flames too, Chris Tanev. He's missing a bunch of teeth. He is
But are they selling?
Oh, they're going to be sellers.
Weren't they in the playoffs last yeyear?
They were in the playoffs the last few years, but they're on the outside looking in. The Red Wings smacked them around a couple weeks ago on their home ice.
Okay.
5-0. Calgary's going to be a seller. Chris Tanev, he's like your old school defenseman, like blocking shots, checking people. He doesn't care about scoring. He cares about playing defense, and that's the type of guy that the Red Wings need. He's on an expiring deal. There's another guy from the Anaheim Ducks too, who is exactly the same type of player, and the Ducks are sellers. They're at the bottom of the Western Conference right now.
Oh, okay.
You know who I'd really like to see the Red Wings go after?
Who?
He plays for the Chicago Blackhawks, Seth Jones. He's a defenseman.
But they're not sellers, are they, right away?
Chicago? Hell yeah, if they can get a couple high-end picks or one.
He was not drafted by the Wings. He was with Arizona, though.
Yeah.
Is it Churcherun?
Yeah.
I can't pronounce it.
I know who you're talking about, but yeah, Ottawa is another team that's going to be a seller. I don't know. They got a tough little stretch coming up. I know they have Florida this weekend. The Panthers, they're in a 3-horse race for the number 1 seed right now in the East with Boston and New York. That'll be a tough game for Detroit at home on Saturday, and then they go out west to play the Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, just kind of west.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, they're going back out west again?
Colorado, Vegas, and then they got the Arizona Coyotes. So I think you got to find a way to win on Saturday against Florida because
you know what though? I'm not sure the Penguins can put a run on, and that's the only team that really worries me behind them.
Yeah, because the Red Wings looked like the clear and better team against the Washington Capitals.
And they're still hot, right? I mean, it's not like last night really ruined any momentum. It was just
a slip up.
New Jersey is at 64 points, but
New Jersey scares me a little bit because they have Jack Hughes.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I also think Tampa could fade. They're old. And then the Islanders last night, but the Islanders are 8 points back. Maybe Pittsburgh's out of the question.
Who's coaching their team?
Who?
Patrick Waugh.
For who?
The New York Islanders.
Wait, he was on the bench last night?
He's on the bench, yeah. They fired their head coach and he took over.
What was his name?
Pretty sure it was Patrick Waugh last night.
I thought it was a bald guy.
Patrick Waugh, coach, Islanders.
I thought it was a bald guy, but somebody
he was talking after the game.
Was he bald?
Patrick Waugh's not bald.
No. Okay. Maybe.
Were you looking at Derek Lalonde, the head coach for the Red Wings?
No, I saw 2 different bald guys. I know Lalonde, but he's the short kind of guy.
Yep. They fired Lane Lambert, their head coach, on January 20th, and Patrick Waugh got promoted to interim head coach.
Hate that bastard.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of that. You were just born.
You know, one of my favorite memories, actually, as a sports fan, is 2002 when the Red Wings won the Cup. It was Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, and they scored like 4 goals against Patrick Waugh in the first period and ran him out.
Yep.
Oh, that was one of my favorite memories as a kid.
6?
I was, but I hey, now, don't you take away my
shaming.
Yeah, don't you dare take away from my sports memory here.
I was there drinking beer.
Yeah, I wish I was there. I cried that night as a kid.
Did you really?
Oh yeah.
Funny.
I mean, it was the first. Well,
little kids cry. That's fine. Grown men crying, not fine.
Well, I think it was at that point you knew the winner of that series was going to beat the Carolina Hurricanes and win the Cup.
I can't tell you how exciting those years were when they were playing the Avalanche, especially because everyone knew. I used to do a TV sports show on Fox 2 in Detroit, and on my Sunday, we rotated every other Sunday. Leading up to that series, every week I wore an Avalanche tie.
Really?
Because I wanted them. I'm like, I want these guys. That makes it all better. And people would get so pissed. I'm like, no, I want the Wings to kick their ass. and so I'd wear the tie on TV. People would call the show the next day. They'd be, why you wear an Avalanche tie? And I'm like, because I want them.
Sound like Ric Flair doing a wrestling promo.
I was so good. I actually saw a couple games in Colorado during those Stanley Cup years. It was great because my buddy ran the Fan in Colorado.
Yeah.
So me and my wife / girlfriend at the time would fly out there and just drink our brains off, watch great hockey. The crowd hated us because she'd wear her sweater.
Yeah.
It was so good.
It
was so good.
It was a good time for hockey.
It was.
But it honestly, I don't think hockey, the NHL, is the same when the Red Wings aren't good. Like
it matters.
It's like when people say, you know, college football is not the same when Texas and Michigan aren't good, or USC.
That decade that Michigan was no good, it wasn't good for college football. I mean, I'm sure it was fun for State and it was fun for Ohio State, but overall, you want the iconic brands to be very competitive.
Hockey town,
right?
Like, I mean, it's great right now what's going on in the state. Not only just the Red Wings. I mean, Michigan and Michigan State are really good in hockey right now.
Mhm.
And the Grand Rapids Griffins are playing fantastic.
Tearing it up, baby.
And Yzerman could tear that to shreds with a couple moves.
Yeah, he could.
If they trade Berggren for somebody and they pull up Edvinsson, that team is not very good.
No, but those two are great. So the other thing we want to discuss today is Juwan Howard.
Yes.
There's been a lot of discussion. This podcast is being done the day after they lost to Rutgers by 30. Very non-competitive. I think they were down 14-1 at one point. They can't shoot. They can't rebound. They can't do anything right. They can't play defense. And the talk is that Ward Manuel is not going to say anything till the season's over, which is 2 more games. But he's going to give him another year. And you cannot compare this to Jim Harbaugh's bad year of COVID to when he went 2-4. It's not close. Harbaugh has a track record of success before that everywhere he's been. So not the same thing. If he gets to keep his job one more year, it's totally Ward Manuel's mistake.
What are you selling to your fans by keeping Juwan Howard for another year?
Or to recruits or to transfers. Like I was thinking about this last night. I'm watching this game and I'm going, okay, they don't have many good players, but the couple they do, I don't expect them to stay at Michigan. Do you? Do you think Doug McDaniel's going to stay? He can barely stay eligible grade-wise. He's their best player. Why would you stay if you're allowed to come back next year?
He's going to transfer somewhere where his grades don't matter as much.
Arizona. Wait, where did the other guard go? Arizona, right?
Caleb Love. Yeah. No, Arizona. Wildcats. Yeah.
Grades don't matter at Arizona or Arizona State.
Right.
Because the other guard's at Arizona State.
Yes.
The one who was going to start and then
he left.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah. I can picture him. I don't know what his name is, but I know who you're talking about. Right now, I mean, Michigan's won a single game in like 2 months.
It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing basketball. Because even when I remember when they played Michigan State a couple weeks ago, and I sat down and actually watched that game. I knew
it's Frankie Collins.
Yes, yeah, who was actually pretty good when he was at Michigan.
He was going to start.
Yeah, he was a pretty good. He was a freshman, right?
Yep, he left after his freshman year. Sorry to interrupt you guys.
I knew the monumental collapse was coming at the end of that game, even though Michigan had it close, because that's what they've done all year. But lately, they've just been getting their teeth kicked in. Like their games aren't close. Like last night against Rutgers, it was 82-52.
If you're Tars Reed, who's a good player,
you should transfer to Michigan State. That's all they need is a big man.
Yeah, but you can't do that, can you?
No, I know. I mean, he wouldn't do it, but
what's the NIL? But he'll transfer like Hunter did because someone will give him NIL money.
Right.
And I don't think State will. They just don't do it well either. Neither of the Michigan schools do NIL.
No.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But Juwan Howard, you really should part ways and move on. And the other thing I was asking myself last night, where's Phil Martelli? I thought this guy was a legend in coaching. Why isn't he able to help stem some of this?
Well, I don't know how old he is, but Greg, if you look at him, he's an antique on the bench.
But he's just supposed to be helping. He's not doing the heavy lift.
This is not an old man's game anymore. It's like college football. Like you need a young mind in there that can relate with the players better. I just don't think that's Phil Martelli. It's like Tom Izzo. Like Tom Izzo's a great coach. He's accomplished a lot, but the game's passed him by. It's a different game now.
It is. I also, it's so funny because hindsight is awesome. But when you look back, and when Juwan was putting together this staff, he brought in all of these guys that were supposed to be such brilliant coaches, assistants, all his boys. He brought those guys in, and there's no development.
No.
None whatsoever going on with his team.
I don't recognize anybody on this team except for Terrace Reed from last year and Doug McDaniel. I don't know who any of these guys are.
Oh, the other guys are all transfers.
Jace Howard's on the team, but he doesn't play. Yeah, he's another role player. Like
you hate him too because he's dirty. Oh, Sadie Washington's there. I mean, where are these guys? If I were Juwan. Oh, Howard Isley. That's the other one. Howard Isley was the other one. He was a legend in Michigan. I think where did he go? He went Iowa State maybe. I don't remember, but he's older now. But here's my other thing. If you're Juwan Howard, isn't this the perfect time to say, hey, I got health issues. I'm going to take a year off. and then I'm going to go back to the NBA, where he could be an assistant for the next 20 years and no one will care. I like Juwan. I think he's a pretty good dude for the most part.
Or just see if your boy Ward can get you a cozy job somewhere in the athletic office.
But I think the NBA would take him back as an assistant.
Probably.
I mean, he was with the Heat when they won a championship. He's 16 years in the league. Here's the problem I have, though. Ward Manuel is the problem because he hired a hockey coach with no experience, no head coaching experience. He hired a basketball coach with no head coaching experience. And what did he just do?
Hired a head football coach
With
no actual head coaching experience.
So how
interim head coaching experience.
Okay, but hold on. So how did it work out for hockey?
Bad.
How's it working out for basketball?
Bad.
What do I say is going to happen to football?
Bad.
What do you think? Honestly, not good.
And didn't Ward Manuel just get, correct me if I'm wrong here, is he on the board for the college football playoff committee now
Ward
too?
is, yeah.
Yeah.
Ward's got a lot of people snowed. I don't know how you can look at the job he's done at Michigan and say, oh, this is one of the young, bright minds in our sport. I don't know how that happens.
No.
He's only on it because he's got that big block end behind him.
And
you wouldn't have taken him from UConn and putting him on that committee.
No. And the hockey program too, because the old head coach left there. He hired somebody there.
Fired him.
Yeah,
they fired him. And they didn't have to fire him. He wanted to fire him.
Yeah. Yeah, and the hockey program's not been as good either.
Yeah, and once Mel Pearson left, it was no good. And State's kind of turned that rivalry thanks to this goalie they got up there.
Yeah.
Who the Red Wings, I think, drafted.
Yes, he's a Red Wings prospect. But anyway, no, Ward Manuel, I think if things don't work out on the football field with Sharon Moore, I think at that point, who is Ward Manuel's boss? Is it Santa Ono?
Oh, yeah, the board.
The Board of Regents, right?
And Santa Ono.
Where there's dysfunction with the Board of Regents, too.
Has been for hundreds of years. Harbaugh won in spite of those idiots.
Well, I think if their big money maker, football, is in turmoil, I think that's when they'll look at him and go, you need to leave.
He's going to get 3 years, though, to torpedo it. It'll be a total rebuild in 3 years. You can say what you want about Sharon Moore. He might be the nice guy on the planet. You can't tell me right here and now you think he's going to win. Especially once Harbaugh's guys leave after next year and the year after. And we have not seen a significant commit since he got on staff. He was supposed to be this wizard with recruits. What's going on? What the hell is going on?
I think Michigan is handcuffed by what we were just talking about in a way when it comes to football, too. I think Jim Harbaugh had more of the allure to bring recruits in.
He was a force of nature.
Right. But they don't have the resources that a program like Michigan should have with NIL.
Well, they have them. They just don't do it.
Right.
They don't buy players. The thing, too, is have you ever seen a team make the playoffs 3 years in a row and win a national title and not recruit well?
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
None. It's totally correct, though. They're not going to pay.
Yeah.
And it's going to kill the program.
They want to find team first guys, and that's what that group that just won a national title was. They were all about the team.
You can find them too. You can find those guys too, but
it's just harder. It's getting harder to do that.
Well, it is. College football's ruined. I tried to tell everyone the minute you started bringing money into it, this would happen. No one would listen. Everyone said, you got to pay the kids. You got to pay the kids. No, you don't. They got college paid for. Like right now with NIL, if you're making $100,000 in NIL, I'd make you pay for your own education.
Yeah,
I would. And it's ridiculous that these kids get the free education. And did you see Caleb Williams made $10 million in 2 years at USC?
See the penthouse he lived in Los Angeles?
This is not college football.
Shadur Sanders, Deion's kid driving around a Rolls Royce on campus that got a boot put on it because he didn't pay a parking ticket.
It's embarrassing.
What are we doing? Like these aren't kids walking around amongst their classmates.
Let's just let them go to the pros and go back to college football.
Right.
If Shadur Sanders wants to go to the pros and wash out, he can go ahead.
Right.
I wouldn't pay him in college.
I think before we go down a rabbit hole here, a lot of problems would be solved if a league like the or what is it, the UFL now?
It's the UFL, United Football League.
If they were willing to take on 18 to 19-year-old players and say, hey, come here and get paid like a big leaguer.
Yep.
Well, if you want to go to college, and that's college. Right. It's different in college. You want to come here, treat it like the G League does in basketball.
Got to do something like that.
Right.
We got to wrap this up for today, but let's plan Monday or Tuesday to do that and talk more about that in depth because the Big Ten and the SEC are making some really slimy moves right now. So we gotta. I'll give you some chance to read up on that, and then we'll talk about that next week. But thanks for listening. It's the after show, morning show, sports podcast.
Minus Michelle.
Thank God.
Just the boys here.
Yeah, just the men.
All right, we'll be back Monday.
Men.
Men.
Have a great one.